Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our Quitch webinar this morning. So, the title of our webinar is How Do You Ensure Your Teaching is Addressing What Your Students Actually Need? And to talk about that this morning, we have the fabulous Dr. Beatriz de Oliveira, and hopefully I pronounced that correctly. She is all the way from Brazil originally, I want to point out, and has been working at a number of different universities, and most recently here at Swinburne University in Melbourne, Australia. I know there's people internationally on this call or have asked us it to be recorded as well. So I just wanted to point out where B is. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about B first of all, and then I'll let her introduce herself. So we came across B when she presented at the Quitch showcase at the end of last year. And what we found afterwards that so many people were talking about her presentation and asking if they could hear more from her, if we could reach out to her in terms of the actual things she was doing for her students because of the impact she had and how they could take that up. So we finally, a few months later, we have finally gotten around to doing that. So a very warm welcome to B. And B is a senior lecturer in physiotherapy. And one of the things she probably doesn't tell you about is the awards she has won for teaching innovations. So she has been the recipient of Teaching Excellence Awards. And this includes reflecting your commitment, B, on enriching the student experiences, which I think is what people picked up when they heard your presentation at the end of the year. So B is much loved by her students, which will be no surprise to any of us because any academic who puts in the level of effort that B does always gets good results. So I am going to hand it over to B to introduce herself, tell her a little bit more about her background, and then we'll get into some conversation and have a bit of a chat. Over to you, B, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. A little bit about myself is that I have been teaching at universities for the better part of the past 15 years now, doing it full time for at least 10 years. And I feel that the journey has been one of that I've learned a lot, and I've been very open to technology and, kind of try to make teaching fun and interactive. So whenever I come across something that could make that happen, I try to learn as best as I can. I'm not gonna lie that I'm some sort of whiz. I'm not. But I feel that as long as I am provided with a lot of support, I'm very willing to try new things, such as Quitch. And yeah, so I thought it would be fun to talk about my experience and how that could perhaps help other people as well.
Great. Thank you so much, B. That's a fabulous introduction. I would say to the audience as well, if you do have some questions for B, if you can pop them in the chat down the bottom and we will get to them towards the end. And if we do run out of time, which sometimes we do, you can follow up with us later and we will get back to you. And of course, we will share the recording with you as well. So B, I have prepared some questions for you. So we know you're teaching and using Quitch in the Anatomy and Physiology unit. But what learning challenges can you share with the audience were you hoping to address before introducing those low stakes formative quizzes through Quitch?
I guess the thing is that I wanted to make it engaging and I wanted to make sure that students worked with something they were already somewhat familiar with because this is a quiz that I asked them to do as their very first thing when they start their course, the whole degree actually. It's the very first contact to the degree that they have. And at Swinburne, I knew that Quitch was already being used to inform students about the general workings of the university. I can't remember exactly what that program was, but it was to inform students about
The
the university.
orientation program, I think, B, that one was. Yes.
Yeah, so I thought that would be good to piggyback on that work and say, hey, if you already have the app or if you're already familiar with this platform, I'd like everybody to do this quiz before you start your degree because I really want to understand your level of knowledge and perhaps see where I should focus more, how I should direct the teaching, and see also gauge the depth of knowledge that already exists because students come from such different backgrounds and some of them bring a lot of experience, some of them a little bit less. So it's good to know where they are from the beginning.
I love that actually. So you were using it as a bit of a diagnostic tool to see what
Yeah.
level of knowledge students had before you got started.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I think it was
Right.
a I had two aims with that. It was, as you said, very aptly, a diagnostic
Yeah.
tool, but yeah, also just to um, yeah, get them engaged from early on as well. So it was something that I thought would be a good initiative.
Yeah, and Quitch is above all else, it is an engagement tool, B. So yeah, so you're
Mhm.
using it in exactly the way it was designed to be used. So, and my next question for you was, why is it important for you as an academic to better understand which concepts students were struggling with before those labs and assessments that you have in the curriculum for them?
Well, I teach anatomy and physiology, and for any of those who have ever studied it, you will know that it is so content intensive. The load is heavy. And this unit that I'm teaching specifically, there's just too much to learn in one semester. So if I'm able to identify the areas where I probably need to focus more on, or where I would be able to help students more, that is very valuable instead of trying to cover everything.
It's
So
interesting.
it does
Yeah.
help be more specific and more targeted with teaching.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because I was speaking with Bond University yesterday, indeed, who also use Quitch in anatomy. And we were having this same conversation that it's like so heavy, the content, there's so much for students to learn. How can we best approach it to just really help them through that? And we talking about that idea of chunking the learning down. And as you said, for you as an academic to know what is it they know so that we're not as academics wasting any of that valuable time going over things that they already know, but that we're focusing on a deep understanding of things that clearly that they're struggling with. So I love that you do that before the labs, as you say, you need to understand where they're at. I have a couple of questions then around integration in terms of into your course. How did you incorporate Quitch into the unit, like alongside your existing teaching and assessment structure? Academics are always asking us this question, how are people integrating it? So I thought it'd be great if you could share that, Bea.
How did I integrate it? I guess it's not that different from, just creating quizzes and whatever learning
Yeah,
platform you have access to. But it's just that some functions are quite nice in Quitch to detect a few things, such as, the traffic light system in Quitch that I thought was very useful. So I do try to keep like a certain language consistent, and so the similar type of language that I was using on Quitch, I was using in their other platforms, and also just making sure that I was being very clear on my instructions. I worked alongside Callum, who is
yeah,
I'm not sure what his title is exactly, but he works with Quitch,
yes.
and we
Works, yeah, in
really.
our quality assurance and helping people out. Yes.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we just really wanted to make clear instructions to students to indicate, okay, so this is the platform, this is how you access it,
Mm.
and this is the purpose of the activity. So we were just very clear on giving them that information as to why we were using Quitch over whatever else they had access to, because they do get introduced a lot of new systems, especially when they begin a new course. So we thought, okay, let's just be clear about what's the
Mm.
purpose of each one of these platforms.
I think there you make some really important points there about that language, that similar language. So we're not introducing a new language and causing confusion for students. And your point about clear communication is absolutely critical, I think, to success. Because without that, students they're already have got so much cognitive overload in many ways that we want to make sure that we just focus on exactly what they need to know in terms of that communication, setting themselves up. And I also like B how you mentioned the traffic light system. And that is, I think, critical as well because it's as academics, it's providing us in real time the data around where our students are struggling. So we know exactly what areas to focus on. So really interesting the things that you pointed out there. I have
Yeah,
a
it's really
question. Go
highlighting
ahead.
the thing
Yeah.
that was very specific to Quitch. because I didn't get the same thing from the other platform, and I thought that would be that is very clear visual
Yeah.
um, representation of how students are performing. So it's just easy to have a quick glance and yeah, and kind of just
Yeah.
make decisions from there.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly because that was my next question around that. So it shows you very clearly in terms of the performance of content. And then the other area we have in there is also the performance of your students. So we can filter out for those that are at risk and reach them on their mobile phone through the announcement feature. So I
Yeah.
really like that you made the most of that. So the performance of contents, performance of our students in real time, so we can support them. Because you and I both know from our research that the sooner we know this data, the sooner we intervene and support, the much greater chance of success those students have. So, and they're always very grateful for any support they can get. And I feel it is our duty to support them. We have them here, they're our students. We need to make sure we're setting them up for success. My next question then, B, is how did Quitch's data influence your decisions around your lab content or your revision activities?
It was very much around because it was only the second time that I was running this unit. So I had
Right.
developed it from scratch, and I thought I really want to understand where students are coming from before we begin the second iteration.
Hmm.
And so I introduced different concepts in this quiz. For example, because I teach into anatomy. So I assume things like, well, I think they'll know a lot more about musculoskeletal anatomy and physiology, but maybe they're not that familiar with the endocrine system, or with neuroanatomy. So that's what I did. I kind of had questions that were specific to each one of these topics that are quite their own science within anatomy
Yeah.
and physiology, and just try to see like where people were perhaps struggling more with and where they were more confident. So it did help me think about, okay, so this is probably like the level of information that I need to pitch for this certain topic, whereas the other ones I thought, okay, this I think there's enough here, especially in what I assumed turned out to be pretty similar. So I thought, okay, so I feel like that I don't need to work as much on musculoskeletal anatomy, but I need to put a little bit more effort into neuroanatomy, the endocrine system, cardiopulmonary, because I feel like that those were the areas that hadn't been, um, yeah, just hadn't been covered in their previous experience, for the students' previous experience. So it was that. It was mainly what topics are missing and the depth of knowledge that they probably need and what would help them.
Yeah, so you're driven by data, which is again as
Oh
academics
yeah.
important for us. Yeah. So the data is showing you, okay, in terms of the different sciences as you describe them, it was able to help you identify which of those sciences, for want of a better word, um
Mhm.
they needed to develop their skills on. And you talked interestingly about the word confidence there. And I agree, B. I think it's a huge thing with students. It's about often those initial units and stages about building their confidence, isn't it, to get them to engage and so on.
Yeah, definitely. It was good to see that because I mean I feel like that overall the students did quite well
Mm.
in this quiz. So I do hope that it encouraged them to continue and deepen their knowledge in the unit. But also, like, it wasn't perfect, so it did expose some areas that they perhaps needed to work further on. So it was just
Mm.
really early on feedback because I got them to do this in the very first day of their course.
Yeah.
And I provided feedback because it was so quick, right, to get the information,
Yep.
write the feedback. So I wrote the feedback on the same day
Yeah.
and identified the areas where and then laid out pretty much like, look, this
Yeah.
is what I identified, so this is what I'm going to do to help you throughout this unit. And there was still a little bit of time for me to work on those topics because, I feel like, as I said, musculoskeletal anatomy was the first and it's the biggest part. So I had a little bit more time to work on the other topics that came later in the semester.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's an important and key part that you start at the beginning. So you're getting that information as soon as possible. But I love, B, that you're, as soon as you have that data, that you're giving the feedback to the students and saying, this is where I can see that, you know, you need to improve and uplift our confidence and so on. That's like a fabulous way to use it. But I love that you're doing that in real time, because that is something that, you know, students very much appreciate, getting feedback, which takes me and probably explains a bit of the answer to the next question, because you, in terms of, I'm going to talk now about student experience and impact. B, you achieved a 98% completion rate in your unit, which is, let's face it, for any kind of discipline, is a phenomenal achievement, I've got to say. So I guess it would be great for people to understand, what do you think it was that drove such strong student participation? Because a 98% is wow kind of level.
Well, I like to think that it's not what I did, but I think it's the type of students as well that we have,
Yeah.
because we admit students who are interested in doing their masters in physiotherapy.
Yeah.
And so that means that they've already done a degree and they want to do the second degree, which will allow them to be fully qualified physiotherapists. So I feel that these are students who are engaged, and I feel that that brings a certain level of commitment already straight off the bat. But in terms of me trying to get them to do it, I think it was a lot of communication, because I really made it clear that anatomy and physiology is the foundation of your profession. You need to start as soon as possible. And so I put that all in my communication along with the instructions on how to download Quitch. And I just said, look, and you can get feedback right now, even before you begin. But if you don't think you need it, fine.
Wonderful. So you were very clear right from the outset that this is something that is here to help you and support you.
Mhm.
And really, it's up to you whether you decide to use it or not. But I
Yeah.
think I love the way you do that. And I think, as you said to them, they're getting feedback right from the beginning, because you talked about the traffic light system for you as the educator on the performance of content and the performance of the individuals. But the student themselves, of course, also gets personalized feedback with a traffic light system through the app. So one of the things students have often reported is it lets them know what they don't know, which is more important to them. So highlighting in red anything, I haven't mastered this content. Green, I've blitzed it. Orange, yellow, I'm not quite there yet. So I need to brush up on these skills before I go sitting any assessments or exams. So interesting. I love that you had that content ready for them right at the beginning. So it was able to give them a good sense themselves, because they talk often then about feeling empowered because they have all of this data in front of them about their own personal performance. So I love the way that you communicate with them. I think communication is key also to success, setting things up and
Yeah.
explaining why.
And I also explained that, because this is something that they could have done anywhere, on any device. So I did explain that, there was no point in actually like Googling information or Googling the answers, because that wasn't the point of the quiz. The
Yeah,
point of the quiz was just so you could understand where you are at in your learning journey
yeah,
and where perhaps you need a little bit more work on.
yeah,
So I did make that clear as well, that this is meant for you, for your own knowledge, for
yeah,
your own development. So yeah, again, just thinking what the purpose of
yeah,
this
yeah,
quiz is, and making it very clear. Um, and I do think that it does help a little bit being in the beginning of the semester, where they're not so, I mean, I feel like that they are trying to get their head around the systems in the new course, but I also feel that they're very excited at that
yeah,
stage.
yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think that's
Getting
a
them
really good
early is
point.
good.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. It's a good time. And on that, B, how do you think the students, or how did the students respond to that kind of low pressure, if you like, gamified learning experience?
Oh yeah, I feel that students love quizzes. They
They do.
they love quizzes. I mean, I do a lot of co-design work with students, and developing, new learning material. And it's amazing to hear how much they want more quizzes. They want quizzes in between lecture slides, even. They want quizzes more frequently. And I honestly, I can't produce enough quizzes fast enough
Yeah.
to keep up with the demand. Um, yeah, so I thought that that was interesting that how their appetite for this
Yeah.
format of learning.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, B, because that's also the feedback we've got. They want more questions and more questions. So we've actually, and I don't think we've gotten around to sharing this with you yet, but as a result of that feedback from students, we now have what we call the practice mode in the app for students. So if they want additional questions, they will be able to select, one more a day, five more a day, 10 more a day, which I think is great because it caters to that individual again. And some might not want more than what you've delivered, but as you just said, most of them will. They cannot get enough. And those questions will be based on their performance, B, but it will also still be taken from and created from your content. So the good thing about it is it's still keeping them focused on the material that you want them to learn, because I feel nervous about them going out into the great ether with their AI and looking at material that they have no clue whether it's, good, bad, or indifferent. Whereas here we're using your own material that you're using in class for them. So interesting you say that, because I agree. I've been teaching for many more years than you, I suspect, and a little older. And I find the same thing, B. They can just not get enough of revision. They keep asking for more. So wherever we can, we can help them out, then we want to do that. Another question I have around these students is did you notice specifically any changes in the student confidence and engagement before their summative assessments?
I think I did, yeah, because I feel that when they came back, I did ask them, how do you think you did it on the quiz? How helpful was it? What do you guys want to do more? So I did check in with them afterwards as well to ask, is what I saw what you actually need, and is there anything else that I can help you with? So there was that bit of a discussion afterwards, and I did feel that they were like, yeah, like that they were happy that, they weren't coming from zero, that they
Yes.
were bringing
Yeah.
information and they were bringing that previous experience,
Yeah.
and but also setting the tone that they needed a lot more
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
as much as possible, really, because the more they learn this information, the better professionals they are likely to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And that's what it's all about when it gets down to it. We need to make sure that they understand that knowledge. And then with Quitch, we've got the evidence of where the gaps might be. And as you said, then we can fill in those gaps, which is exactly what we want to do. So we're getting close on time. So, but I have some more questions, B, if I may. So for the audience, about some kind of reflections and maybe advice for them. So the first question I have is, what advice would you give educators wanting to use low stake quizzes to improve the teaching clarity and the student outcomes specifically?
I think it's a great way to engage them.
Yeah.
So I feel that yes, it's worthwhile the time that you spend developing the quizzes. And I got to say that the support offered by Quitch was really helpful because we're always planning these things at a time when we don't have time because it's needed. So it was so nice to be able to have support from Callum
Yeah.
because I just wanted to instead of trying to figure things out by myself, I was like, I just need to talk to somebody about it. Like, tell me if what I want to do is possible to do with Quitch, because I had this idea that I wanted a bank of questions, something that was already kind of already started. I didn't want to start from scratch either. And I was aware that Quitch had an anatomy and physiology module already. So I thought maybe if I was allowed to start from there, copy it across, but edit it, and also just a few little things like I wanted the students to do the actual. Oh, that's another thing that I thought was helpful. I wanted all the students to do this introductory quiz at the same time
Mhm.
because I wanted everybody to give me the information as well at the same time so I could um, provide the feedback in a timely manner. So I think also opening it for just a certain time frame, because I only opened it for that period. Like I think it was about 30 minutes that I opened the window and I said, you only have this time to do it. And I said, so organize it. So again, ahead of time, I told them, organize yourselves. I want you to be in a quiet location with good internet access and a device where you're going to complete this. And so everybody did it at the same time. So that means that I asked Callum, I want to be able to release this at the same time. So then he showed me how to do that, how to release it at a certain time and how to close it at a certain time. Um, yeah, and I thought that in doing all that, he showed me how to edit the quiz to exactly what I needed, and it was very easy. So as long as I got the ropes of it, I thought I can do this. All right, and this is going to be really helpful because this is exactly what I want that I was thinking. And yeah, Quitch has allowed me to yeah, move forward with it.
Yeah, great. So I was able to deliver what you wanted, and really, so yeah, with a few kind of lessons or a few one short lesson probably from Callum, you were up and running and then knew how to do it going forward and so on.
It was, yes. So it
Yeah.
was
Yeah. So that's great.
far
Time
far
well
better than
spent.
just trying to, because if I was to figure it out by myself, it would have taken me much, much longer. And I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have had the answers, like
Yeah.
especially with how to release quizzes. I think that that was something that I really needed somebody to
Yeah.
explain to me.
Yeah, that publish area. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, B, and something we hear often, just yeah, a few minutes of training me up on how to use it. And then once I've done it, I'm up and running for any other unit and for, a week from week
Yeah.
two onwards and so on. So
And the
that's
support
great.
was really quick, by the way. It was,
Yeah.
I
So
contacted on the same day. I got a reply. So the next day we already figured things out and things were up and running very quickly after that.
great. And that's what we want, B. So that's good to hear. And B, I have one final one for you before we're out of time, and it is looking ahead now. Are there any new ways you'd like to further use analytics or formative learning tools in your teaching? We ask you to look into the future.
To further use, I haven't quite thought. I think it's just more. I just want to be able to embed it more because that's what the students are asking for. They want it to be kind of like they want to receive a chunk of information in a quiz, followed by a quiz. And it's not just, then it doesn't have to be in the same format, but as long as it's something that is active, as long as it's something that gets them to think and to see if they've actually absorbed the information so that they can move on to the next thing. Because I do think that if they sit down for too long listening for like a 2 hour lecture, they're probably not going to retain much. But if they see something for about 5, 10 minutes and then do a little quiz on it, that's a lot more likely to have a lasting
Yeah.
um, like it's lasting learning for them. So I feel like that I would like to do it more and more often. And I did mention this before, and it would have been really good at like integrating like Quitch in between, like within the learning management system as well, so
Yeah.
that the students wouldn't have to, go back and forth between systems.
Yeah. We are out of time, but can I summarize a few things I thought were really key? So one of the things you talked about at the beginning was you wanted to drive engagement. So I love the fact that you used Quitch like a diagnostic tool. So the first day they arrived, you did a test to see where their knowledge was, so you could see clearly where there was gaps right at the outset. And I think you make an interesting point about in anatomy and physiology, it's very heavy or dense content, and there's an awful lot of it for them to learn. And then just at the end, you talked there about chunking that learning down, because if it's a 2 hour URI or whoever it might be, giving a 2 hour lecture, it's very difficult for someone to retain all of that. But if we chunk it down and break it and test them, then we're kind of committing it to long-term memory is what we need, which is what we want to do. So I love those things you're doing. Some of the other things you talked about was using the traffic light system, which is able to tell you in real time where the content, where there was issues, if you like, with the cohort in terms of the content. And I love that you did those feedback and summary straight away to tell the students, this is what I've identified. Now we're going to focus on this going forward. So everybody is up to date. You seem to have a great communication plan, I have to say, being in terms of, dealing with the students. And you also talked about then, in terms of the student experience and the impact, making it very clear from the outset what was the purpose of introducing them to Quitch, which again you did clearly. And it was about building their confidence. So get in, get involved, learn, and get that feedback on your own performance. And I love that you co-design materials with students, because I think this is something that actually more and more of us should be doing. And I really realistically don't think that many of us do it. Because like you, when I talk to students, and they, of course, co-designed Quitch, as you know, again, it was about we don't get enough material to practice. We don't get that personalized feedback. So here's a solution for that. And the other thing you talked about then was that kind of, I guess, in a sense, you had an opening time and a closing time. So they knew if they didn't do it in that time, I guess fear of missing out. So that also you found that drove the engagement as well. And then for the future, you'd like to look at embedding it more, because it is what students are asking for. B, so much learning from you, I must say. I'm going to say a huge thank you to you for joining us today, but I will leave the last word to you. I'll let our audience send, if it's okay with you, B, if they have some follow-up questions, they can reach out. Is that okay?
That's absolutely okay. Yeah, no problem.
That would be great. I will share your details. So B, any last words from you? I'll leave the last word to you. How's that?
No, I just want to thank the support. I feel that, we're throwing a lot of different systems and technologies left and right, but if it doesn't come with the support, it kind of we can't really reach that potential with it. So I do appreciate that not only was Quitch really proactive and trying to reach out to us, but when I needed the support, you were very quick to provide it.
Great. B, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. We will get the recording out. We'll get it to you, B, but we'll also get it out to the audience today. And I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you into the future.
Thank you again.
Thanks so much, B. Bye now.
Bye.